To the rest of the news. To have a gender equal world free of disparity, stereotypes and discrimination, breaking the bias, requires collective positive action as well as a change of attitude of both the male and female folks. This was emphasized by the Deputy Governor of Ogun State, Engineer Noimot Salakoyedele, at the commemoration of this year's International Women's Day, organized by the Women Committee of the Nigerian Labour Congress Ogun State Council. Margaret Okunlola reports.
Every 8th of March is a global day set aside to celebrate the social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The Women Committee of the Nigeria Labour Congress Ogun State Council joined women rights advocates groups and societies across the globe to commemorate the day. The state's Deputy Governor, Engineer Noimot Salakoyedele, who was represented by the Senior Special Assistant to Governor on Boundary Matters, Alhaja Khadija Ahmed, lauded the state governor, Prince Abeokuta, for being a gender-friendly leader, also noting that a gender-equal world is a collective responsibility.
To have a gender-equal world, a world free of bias, stereotypes and discrimination, a world that is diverse, equitable and inclusive, a world where the difference is valued and celebrated is not a man's job, it is not a woman's job, it is everybody's job. Breaking the bias requires collective and positive efforts, and we must all play our part.
The state's chairman of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Emmanuel Bankole, assured of support and platform for gender equality.
I want to assure you that on behalf of Nigeria Labour Congress, Ogun State Council, as far as we are concerned, we are ready to support, to nurture, and to give a platform for the women to exhibit their potential.
The chairman of the Women Committee of the Nigeria Labour Congress, Comrade Omolara Olaiya, emphasized the importance of the day.
It is a wake-up call to all women to identify their strengths and ability, notwithstanding the restriction placed by culture and the society. It is certainly unacceptable to think that women are incapable of doing most reasonable things. That perception is very unfair.
The event also featured lectures about the female gender, cultural dance, and presentation of awards to notable individuals. Margaret Okunlola, OGTV News.
A call has gone out to women to brace up and take responsibility in inculcating right morals in their children for a better society. Ogun State Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Honorable Fumilayo Fuakwe, made a call while commemorating the 2022 International Women's Day in the state. Elizabeth Esson, who witnessed the ceremony held at the Orbis Complex, Okemosan, Abeokuta, reports that stakeholders from various women advocacy groups were well represented. Her report.
Whether deliberate or unconscious, bias makes it difficult for women to move ahead. Knowing that bias exists is not enough. Action is needed to level the playing field. This informed the theme for this year's celebration of the International Women's Day, Break the Bias, to commemorate the cultural, political, and socio-economic achievements of women. Women in Ogun State were not left out in this year's celebration, as they converged on the Orbis Complex, Okemosan, Abeokuta, to commemorate the day, as put together by the State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development in collaboration with Nigeria for Women projects.
Ogun State government will ensure that decisions are inclusive and reflect the needs of the entire population. This is how we will rebuild from a nation that has made gender inequality worse and has pushed more women into poverty, out of jobs, and away from access to education and medical services, including sexual and reproductive health.
In their different speeches, Commissioner, Women Affairs and Social Development, Honorable Fumilayo Fuakwe, and the Special Advisor to the Governor in the Ministry, Honorable Adijat Oladapo Adeleye, while calling on women to intensify efforts at achieving gender equality in all strata, enjoining them to take proper care of the home front for an enviable society.
Generation Equality Campaign calls for women's right to decision-making in all areas, equal pay. The right we are asking for is to be able to be at the table when you are discussing about us. It is so disdainful, painful, and pitiful that of the 68 proposed legislation, about 5 women-related bills which sought to promote more opportunity for women in political parties, governance, and the society at large were outrightly rejected by an institution that was supposed to bring hope to the common man. It is a pity.
The guest speaker, Professor Yabode Kende, confirmed that if women are given platform to be in power, the nation will achieve economic success.
We are talking about this in relation to the distribution of power and influence. We are talking about this in relation to the opportunities for financial independence through the work or through setting up of business.
Goodwill messages were also delivered at the ceremony by leaders of some of the women advocacy groups present. Elizabeth Tesson, OGTV News.
The male gender has been urged not to see women as a competitor, rather a counterpart towards achieving a break in the bias that prevents women from attaining their full potentials. This was the crux of the messages delivered by Yalode Alabalonsin, an State Commissioner for Industry, Trade and Investment, Mrs. Kikelomo Longe, while celebrating International Women's Day organized by different women bodies in the state. Ronke Adeyemi reports.
They provides a platform to constantly remind the society about women's issue while encouraging them to continuously challenge the status quo and break the bias women face on daily basis. To further celebrate the day, Nasima Business Women Group, Ogun State Chapter, in collaboration with Nigeria Association of Women Journalists, Association of Nigeria Women in Business, and Ogun State Women Sheep Hotel Golden Farmers Cooperative Multipurpose Society, organized a program for students of Abeokuta Girls Grammar School with the theme, Break the Bias. In their welcome addresses, dignitaries at the event emphasized the need for women to equip themselves if they want to break all barriers.
Who am I? Why am I passing through AGGS? What hope do I have for my future? All this, if you're asking yourself sincerely, you'll be able to grow yourself.
This yearly celebration should be considered a day where everyone acknowledges the value and the importance of women in their lives and all around the world.
We are the custodians of our culture, because if we don't pass it down to the next generation, who will?
Guest speakers stressed that being a woman should never be perceived as a demerit.
Don't just be doing things for doing sake. Stand firm to do the right thing at any time.
Representative of the women associations highlighted the significance of celebrating amongst girls as they are the future of the nation.
Celebrating women's achievements, raise awareness against bias, take action for equality, support International Women's Day.
A space to showcase ourselves, to showcase our talents, to showcase what women are capable of doing.
In the journey towards a more equal world, there is need to intentionally work towards including more women in decision-making, especially by addressing and breaking the barriers for a sustainable tomorrow. Aderonke Adeyemi, OGTV News.
While still celebrating women, stakeholders in the Nigerian project need to come together to harness the potentials of the women folks for national development. A women organization tagged Womanifesto made this call during a peaceful walk in Abeokuta, state capital, in commemoration of International Women's Day. Details of the event are in this package.
Womanifesto is a collection of more than 500 women organizations and individuals working across Nigeria to ensure gender justice and equity. This peaceful walk in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, is aimed at making women get desired attention and recognition in the affairs of the nation.
We also want women who are who are married and want to claim leadership of their husband's state of origin to do that, but they have been denied. Also, 35% appointed position for women. That one too was also thrown out. And then they deny women 35% affirmative action in party administration and leadership.
Our simple message is that the gender bills that were sent to the National Assembly should be revisited. It's difficult for us to understand why everything was thrown out without consideration, and the reasons given are not tenable to us.
Coming up on the day the world is celebrating women, the manifesto calls on the society to defend and fight the cause of women.
We can't put it down. In recent times, we have seen Nigerian women who have shown themselves globally. We're not even talking about here alone. So if we have seen such, why won't we give more women the opportunity to showcase what they can do?
And what we're doing is celebrating women who are involved in the mitigation, and attending to issues of climate change, which has direct impact on the women. Talking about the development of women, without saying all that, we are there not only outside, but even within our home. And we're saying, without women, there's no nation.
They also expressed hope that this action will significantly improve the overall situation of women and girls in Nigeria.
In commemoration of International Women's Day, the wife of Nigeria's president, Mrs. Aisha Buhari, has called on Nigerians to support processes that help women gain power and economic success. Aisha Buhari said through this, the interests and values of the female gender will be better represented in the country. She spoke at the first edition of the Society of Petroleum Engineers Women Leadership Lecture Series on Tuesday in Lagos. The lecture, which had the theme, Breaking the Bias, Accelerating Business and Economic Growth Through Inclusion, was organized to commemorate the 2022 International Women's Day. Mrs. Buhari was represented by Hajia Aisha Aminu, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Legal Matters, Office of the First Lady. President Muhammadu Buhari has extolled Nigerian women on the occasion of International Women's Day, March 8, 2022. Buhari observed that women are not where they should be yet in different spheres of endeavor, but believed that they could no longer be deprived for too long, as they have consistently proved that they could hold their own on all fronts and in all fields. Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, disclosed this in a statement. According to Buhari, the celebration under the hashtag Break the Bias and the theme Gender Equality Today for a Sustainable Tomorrow is an opportunity to reflect on the vital roles women play in society, homes, governance, their professions, and in all walks of life. He applauded the contributions of women to the current administration as ministers, special advisors, senior special assistants, executive directors, executive secretaries, and many others, noting that they were pulling their weight and making it impossible for anyone to downplay their essence. Buhari also rejoiced with women and mothers around the world whom the tranquility of homes and society revolves, praying God to grant them peace, joy, and satisfaction as they celebrate today and always. The House of Representatives has reversed itself on 3 gender-related bills that failed to pass in the ongoing amendments to the 1999 Constitution. The Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, called for a rescission of the votes on the affected bills after the lawmakers held an executive closed-door session on Tuesday. While there are 5 gender bills, those to be revisited are Bill 36, to expand the scope of citizenship by registration, Bill 37, to provide for affirmative action for women in political party administration, Bill 38, to provide criteria for qualification to become an indigene of a state in Nigeria. Those dropped are Bill 35 to provide for a special seat for women in the National and State Houses of Assembly, and Bill 68 to give women a quota in the Federal and State Executive Councils or ministerial and commissionership seats. Gbajabiamila noted that the 3 bills will be included in the second batch of amendment bills to be considered in about 4 weeks' time. The lawmakers in the 2 chambers had on Tuesday last week voted on the 68 recommendations by the Joint Senate and House Special Ad Hoc Committee on the review of the 1999 Constitution. Coming up next, Abuja High Court sacks Ebonyi State Governor Umahi and his deputy over the convocation of a school security summit as part of efforts of the Ogun State House of Assembly towards evolving strategies for crime control and prevention within the schools in the state. The Speaker, Right Honorable Olakunle Oluomo, disclosed this during an advocacy visit by members of the National School Crime Prevention Corps, led by its commandant, Mr. Folayinka Ige, at the Assembly Complex Okemoson, Abeokuta. House of Assembly correspondent Kolawole Osho covered the visit. Details of his report are presented in this package.
Following the dangerous turn of events among primary and secondary school pupils in Ogun State, Speaker of the State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Olakunle Oluomo, while receiving members of the National School Crime Prevention Corps, led by Commandant Folayinka Ige, explained that it had become expedient for the 9th Assembly to interface with stakeholders in the education sector, along with top hierarchy of all security agencies, traditional rulers, and community leaders, among other concerned stakeholders, in order to ensure sustenance of peace and stability in schools. Commending the efforts of the Corps at nipping crime in the bud through apprehension of defiant students, resulting in rehabilitation and, where necessary, handing them over to security agencies, the Speaker condemned the rising spate of social vices being perpetrated by school pupils in some of the schools across the state.
Let us see how we can first of all organize a summit on school crime, where we will invite all the necessary stakeholders to this house, where we will give you the opportunity to say all you know before stakeholders. And all of us will now come together and think of finding a solution. Probably by that time, if we are coming up with a law that will back this up, then everybody will see reason for it.
Earlier, the commandant of the Corps, Folayinka Ige, informed the lawmakers of the Corps' efforts at addressing social unrest occasioned by hooliganism, cult-related activities, and fetish practices among school pupils, adding that it had ensured the rehabilitation and reintegration of some defiant students. In her address, the Provost, Civil Defense College of Security Management, NSCDC Commandant Rachel Awoshusi, applauded the efforts of the Corps, saying that NSCDC had been given operational and logistic support to the Corps towards aiding the effective discharge of its duties.
We apologize for the technical hitches in that report. The Ogun State government has reiterated its commitment to curb social vices among the youth and also improve the security architecture across the state. The state governor, Prince Dapo Abiodun, stated this at the security summit held at the Valley View Auditorium, Okigbe, Abeokuta. Sheyi Alau has the rest of the story.
Peace and security are critical to the socio-economic development of every society. It is against this backdrop that the Nigeria Police Community Relations Committee, PCRC, and the National Youth Council of Nigeria, NYCN Ogun State Chapter, collaborated with the state government for the 2022 Security Summit. Tagged the growing waves of crime and criminalities among the youth and young adults, the summit is a swift response to the spate of ritual killings and other social vices happening in the state. The summit had in attendance Ogun State Governor Prince Dapo Abiodun, represented by the Special Advisor on Security, AIG Olushola Subiru retired, Commissioner for Youth and Sports, Dr. Oluwadare Kende, the Ogun State Commissioner of Police, CP Lanre Bankole, and other stakeholders. In his remarks, AIG Olushola Subiru retired said the security summit is one of the many steps the government is taking to curb criminalities among the youths.
That is why this particular seminar of today is very apt. It is coming at the very right time. So those people will be sensitized on the effect of crimes, on the evil of crimes, and not to partake in it.
AIG Subiru added that the government is working tirelessly to provide platform for the youth to excel in order to discourage them from getting involved in social vices.
The idle land is the devil's workshop. The main source of job provider now is agriculture. And that is why the government is investing heavily in agriculture to engage our youth.
The Commissioner of Police in the state, CP Lanre Bankole, however, admonished families, religious and traditional institutions to join government and play active role in the fight against crime.
We have to go back to the basis, ensuring that the upbringing of a child goes beyond that of his immediate family, but should be the responsibility of the whole community.
Meanwhile, the officials of Police Community Relations Committee praised government for its efforts, as it is believed the summit will be used to redesign strategies and systems to end social vices among the youths. Sheyi Alao, OGTV News.
To properly situate the unprecedented performance and wonderful achievements of the late sage Chief Obafemi Awolowo as a political leader, there is need to entrench his ideologies, politics, and political philosophy, which should be studied by students and anyone aspiring for a leadership position. Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress in Ogun State, Kamri Tunde Oladunjoye, made this recommendation in his lecture to commemorate the 113th posthumous birthday celebration for Chief Obafemi Awolowo, organized by Afenifere Group in Ijebu 8 local government. Matthew Shomi completes the report.
As the nation continues in search of quality leaders at all levels, this lecture, organized by Afenifere movement in Ijebu East local government to commemorate the 113th posthumous birthday of the late sage Chief Obafemi Awolowo, was to raise the consciousness of the legacies of good governance and quality leadership of the late Yoruba leader to serve as a model for today's leaders. Delivering his lecture with the topic Obafemi Awolowo Way, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress in Ogun State, Kamri Tunde Oladunjoye, who focused on the legacies of Awolowo in education, agriculture, housing, and infrastructure, called for an urgent attention in salvaging the education sector, prioritization of agriculture, and proper planning. Kamri Oladunjoye concluded that there is need for deliberate efforts to build quality leadership at all levels and across all sectors.
Our urging is that people should look at a model that has worked in the past, progressive ideas that are still relevant, a regeneration of leaders, crop of leaders that will be progressive minded and have foresight.
Chairman of Ijebu East local government, Honorable Wale Adedayo, said there's a lot to be learned from the leadership model of Awolowo, and anyone who claims to be an Awoist must reflect that by putting the interests of the nation above self.
We need to go back to the foundation. We need to go back to where Chief Obafemi Awolowo and the rest of them started from.
There were contributions from the representative of the chairman of the lecture, Senator Gbenga Kaka, and others at the occasion.
You see, how do you honor a legend when he refused to toe his part? Even at level of religion, the prophets, those who honor the prophets, are those who act on their beliefs.
He gave us free education, and during Awo, he gave us good family value, which is not there today.
They called for the continuation of such a program as this. Matthew Shomi, OGTV News.
A federal high court sitting in Abuja has ordered Governor David Umahi and his deputy, Dr. Eric Kelechi Igwe, to immediately vacate office as governor and deputy governor of Ebonyi State on account of their defections from the People's Democratic Party (PDP) to the All Progressives Congress (APC. Justice Ian Eko, in his judgment, held that the defecting from the party on which they were sponsored and elected as governor and deputy governor of Ebonyi State to the APC, a political party that did not win the election, they had resigned or are deemed to have resigned from office. The court made the order and a judgment on a suit filed by the PDP seeking the removal of Governor Umahi and Deputy Governor Igwe from office. The court noted that the crux of the matter was the defection of the third and fourth from the PDP to the APC. The court said the averment of the third and fourth defendants did not address the issue of defection rightly and frontally, but rather resorted to general denial to affidavit of evidence. Justice Eko said the depositions of the third and fourth defendants in their counter affidavit were evasive and insufficient to competently challenge the plaintiff's originating process. It was the opinion of the court that the immunity clause in Section 308 of the Constitution is not absolute. Meanwhile, David Umahi has declared that he was still the governor of Ebonyi State, saying the judgment of Justice Ian Eko, which rendered him and his deputy removed on Tuesday, was purchased. Umahi said he was not surprised that the judge delivered the judgment in favor of the People's Democratic Party, adding that Eko was charged and needed to discharge. Umahi stated this during a press conference in Abakaliki on Tuesday. He said he will appeal the judgment by the Federal High Court presided over by Justice Eko. The Senate has said that the court has no constitutional right to stop the legislative arm of government from carrying out its functions, such as law-making. The President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, stated this at the plenary while reacting to the ruling by the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja, restraining the National Assembly from going further to amend the new Electoral Bill 2022. It has been a doctrine that separation of power conferred on the legislature the function of making and amending laws brought to it by individual members or the executive, and an attempt to interface with these constitutional duties amounts to infringement on constitutional provisions. The federal government has urged the Nigerian Labour Congress (NLC) to advise its affiliate, the Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU), to abide by the provisions of the Trade Disputes Act and call off its ongoing strike. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the 2022 edition of the National Labour Advisory Council in Lagos, the Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, also urged the Council to discuss as part of its agenda a workable recipe that appropriately conciliates disputes with associations that are not properly registered as trade unions to ensure that they fully abide by the provisions of the law. The Minister noted that some associations in critical sectors of health and education, such as the Nigerian Medical Association, National Association of Resident Doctors, are in actual fact not properly unionized. Ngige recalled the numerous benefits of the Council, especially as they relate to the review of the labor laws and adoption of the various conventions of the ILO, and commended the federal government for moving ahead with global best practices even while working to adopt the conventions. The minister referred to Convention 102, which is on social security, listing the pillars to include comprehensive medical care, compensation for accident at work, workers' insurance, and maternal health, saying the Employee Compensation Act 2020 2010 National Health Insurance Scheme, as well as maternity and now paternity leave currently being accessed by public servants, are in this direction. The Ogun State Ministry of Community Development and Cooperatives has inaugurated a foodstuff milling and grinding association for Ogun East Senatorial District, with a charge on the association to make the health of the people their watchword. The inauguration, which took place in Shagamu, had representatives of the Commissioners for Community Development and Cooperatives, as well as that of Ministry of Health. Tiwalade Faison reports. We'll bring you the report in the course of the news. Next is business news. Do stay tuned.
Welcome to the business segment of the news. The African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, has released 700 million euro bond to the development of the oil and gas sector. Speaking in Lagos at the African Local Content Investment Forum with the theme, Pan-African Strategy Towards Sustainable Funding of Africa Oil and Gas Projects, the Managing Director, Afreximbank, Dr. Benedict Orama, said the Eurobond was released last week. Rama observed that Africa has about 125 billion proven crude oil reserves and the hundreds of trillions of proven gas reserves, but regretted that over 600 million people of the continent's 1.3 billion people were still without access to energy. Orama reiterated that the Afreximbank remained keen to supporting the industry to achieve its balance. Also, the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, has charged African countries with fossil fuels to look inward for alternative funding for hydrocarbon energy. The Nigeria Customs Service has finally announced the suspension of the implementation of the Vehicle Identification Number Valuation Policy recently introduced on imported vehicles. According to a circular, the third suspension is set to begin on Tuesday, March 8, 2022. Under this policy, importers will be able to auto-generate tariffs on imported cars, a move which had led to weeks of demonstration and the shutdown of port activities by licensed customs agents. However, the communique says it has approved 1 month window of opportunity to enable the clearing agent to clear the backlog of vehicles held up in the port due to the strike action. The statement also instructs importers to ensure a uniform application of rebates for all vehicles using the correct values for their assessment. The 11 electricity distribution companies, DISCOs, under the umbrella of the Association of Nigerian Electricity Distributors, ANED, have said not all approved metering schemes active in the country offer meters at no immediate expense to customers. This was made known by ANED's Executive Director of Research and Advocacy, Sunday Oduton, while clarifying to meter stations through which customers can obtain electricity meters. In a statement in Abuja, explained that under the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission's Meter Asset Provider and National Mass Metering Regulations, there are 2 metering programs, National Mass Metering Program, NMMP, and the Meter Asset Provider. The NMMP is a policy intervention by the federal government with funding from the Central Bank of Nigeria. This program commenced in 2021, and the objective of the program is to expeditiously close the electricity metering gap. These meters are provided free of charge to customers and as loans to the electricity distribution companies, DISCOs. Now to the foreign scene, the President of United States, Joe Biden, announced a ban on U.S. imports of Russian oil on Tuesday, the administration's most far-reaching action yet to punish Moscow for invading Ukraine. United States banned all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy. That means Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and American people will deal another powerful blow to President Vladimir Putin, Biden said in an address from the White House, adding that the decision was taken in close consultation with allies. The ban came with Democrats threatening legislation to force Biden's hand, despite the likely impact on already soaring gas prices. Russia has said it may close its main gas pipeline to Germany if the West goes ahead with a ban on Russian oil. Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak said a rejection of Russian oil will lead to catastrophic consequences for the global market, causing prices to more than double to $300 a barrel. The U.S. has been exploring a potential ban with allies as a way of punishing Russia for its invasion of Ukraine. But Germany and the Netherlands rejected the plan on Monday. The EU gets about 40% of its gas and 30% of its oil from Russia and has no easy substitutes if supplies are disrupted. While the UK will not be directly impacted by supply disruption, as it imports less than 5% of its gas from Russia, it will be affected by prices rising in the global market as demand in Europe increases. The price of Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil prices, rose to around $130 a barrel on Tuesday, following reports that the US and UK will announce its own ban on Russian oil imports. That concludes the business segment of the news. Back to Iyabo.
Thank you, Mojisola.